I'm Jeff's brother.
Mr. Jeff's brother.
Okay, you can put it that way.
We're going to ask you some questions. What do you think is a hero?
Somebody who does something beyond what can be expected and doesn't expect anything for it.
Can you name any heroes that you would name in reality, in fiction, or literature?
Yesterday I watched the news, and the last thing they had on the news was that they have this new film coming out by, I forget the director. It's about the World Trade Center, about two
The one with Nicolas Cage?
Yes. Now the thing is there was always a mystery about that. They had pictures of 9/11, and they had the pictures of this Marine in combat gear helping them dig survivors out. He was one of the people who found these two police officers, but they never could find him. In 5 years, they never could find out who this man was. All they knew him was Sergeant Jackson. They looked in the databases, they looked all over the place. They get a call last week because Sergeant Jackson saw this commercials for the new Trade Center film and said, "No, that's me." So he called him up, and they found out that he was a Marine, that he's been in Africa, I believe, on embassy duties. He had no idea anybody was ever looking for him, and now all of a sudden he's got this film about him, and he's sitting there, he's just stunned. They asked him if he wanted to see the film. He said, "Well, probably not. It's still a little raw, and plus I already know how it ends." Another hero I would say, Leondakis, or Leondakis.
Who might that be? Because some of our viewers may not know.
He's the king of the Spartans, and next year he will become famous again with the 300 out by Frank Miller and Richard Rodriguez and Tarantino, I believe, all coming together to do this film.
So is this like another Gladiator type film?
No. Basically, they save the world. That's about as easy as you can put it.
How do they save the world?
Persia had a mass army, so it's always been kind of iffy, but between 1 to 2 million. And they were going to conquer the rest of the known world, Europe, North Africa, and take it under Persian domination, under Xerxes. Now, the Spartans said no. And they looked at him and said, "You're nuts, we'll crush you." But the Spartans said no. The Spartan commander knew he had no chance. But he knew if he could make it costly enough, he could put doubt in the mind of the Persians. So he picked a very narrow pass to defend. On one side, jagged hills, no way through them. On the other side, 200-foot drop off to the ocean. In between, a very narrow thing like a three-lane road. And he set his defenses there. Took 300 men with him. They picked up more men on the way. They told these men it was a one-way mission. We are standing, we are dying. And they stopped them. They stopped them cold for 3 days. The Persian army had taken whole countries in 3 days. They can't get through one little road in the middle of the hills. So when they finally took them, they weren't celebrating. When they finally took them and they looked at this field of, I guess, 50,000 Persian dead, and they looked at each other, and those that are still alive, they were looking at each other and saying, "These people are nuts."
So would you say it's almost like what we have in America, the Alamo, where we had
except the Alamo,
300 people holding off Santa Anna's entire army for 3 days.
179 versus 13,000. But this was like 4,000 versus 1 million. No chance at all. They knew there was no chance. Plus the fact the Alamo, we're talking still, that's the age of gunpowder. So a lot of that fighting was at a certain distance.
But don't forget, they were surrounded, unlike they had to come in through a bottleneck, the way you explained it.
Yeah, but toward the end, a trader sold them out and showed the Persians a way through and back around the mountains so they could come at them and box them in from both sides. And the guy looked at him, they were telling him, "Get out of here, run." He looked at him and said, "No." He said, "Why? You've proven your point. If we run, we lose everything. If we run, they're going to look back on these last couple of days and say, they were lucky. That's the best they got. Now they're running like rabbits. Let's go get them. But if we stand here and we fight, and we make them pay for every single inch of ground, we're going to put fear in their hearts. Men are going to start packing up in the middle of the night and going home. And that's exactly what happened. Between that sacrifice they made there and the victories they had at sea, they forced the Persians to go back to Persia, and Greek civilization flourished, and their ideas came here to the West.
So is there any, let's say, Western heroes that you like Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Hulk? You got to have one in particular before we take off.
Oh, of the comics?
Yeah,
I gotta admit, when I was a kid, my favorite comic character was Tony Stark, Iron Man.
You mean the traitor of the Civil War?
I haven't been reading that, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, you're lucky.
Iron Man.
You might have to hit Jeff's collection up.
Okay, well, I always thought Tony Stark, because it was such an interesting character, a man with a weak heart who could die at any time, builds an electronic chest to keep him alive, and he goes further with it, and further with it, and further with it, until he can do all these magnificent things. I mean, you look at the other people that were in, like, the Avengers, they all had superpowers, or they had been altered, like even Captain America had been altered.
But wouldn't Iron Man be kind of like altered as well? One was altered by a steroid, one was altered by technology. They're kind of parallel characters.
The thing is that Captain America did not do that to himself.
Yeah, he did. He chose to do it to himself.
Yeah, but scientists did it to him. It was not a result of his own work.
Because you think about it, they're both sickly characters.
Yeah, but the thing is the big difference I see, Iron Man created this, and it was creation of his own mind, his own technology, his own brilliance to reshape himself, while Captain America was doing it in a patriotic gesture for his country. He knew it could kill him. In fact, they told him flat out it probably would. But he was willing to take the chance.
But Tony Stark's fake heart has almost killed him a couple times too in the Golden Age.
Yes, but that was the point. It was the fact that it was also all the backstory. You know, he still, when he was off being Iron Man, he still had to go back to being Tony Stark and running this huge corporation. And it was, you know, all these other people, they had daytime jobs, but they weren't that demanding. I mean, I don't know what Captain America's daytime job was.
Comic book artist in the present day.
Okay. Spider-Man took pictures, but Tony Stark's running a Fortune 500 company, which I thought, you know, he's got to put a certain amount of brilliance here and a certain amount of brilliance here. And that's quite a drain, but he's managed to keep it juggling. And the fact is that he was the tactician for the Avengers.
But we're going to have to cut this short, so thanks.
Thank you very much. I had a fun time doing it.
Cool.